Hi everyone, welcome to the live guided practice that we are, broadcasting now every Saturday. And today we have this very interesting practice in which we are going to learn how to sacrifice our sufferings. Well, just yesterday we were talking about the law of octaves and the law of entropy in the lectures of the phase A. And that study allow us to understand that this law of octaves, that is the one that help us to ascend to higher levels of consciousness, that is the one that will allow us to take that ladder of the current of sound, which is the current of life, where you go from a higher do to a superior do, passing the 7 musical notes, and we were studying about the pauses and about the shocks or impulses that we need to be giving ourselves to continue advancing in our path towards self-realization. And we were also talking about the law of entropy, and we were saying that the law of entropy is this equalization law, which is the one that is like that resistance, and it is that force that is all the time trying to make us equal to our environment and equal to the lowest vibration of our environment. And we are going to see that this law is all the time like that resistance, that pressure that takes us down, and that we need to make sacrifices in order to transform ourselves. And it will be necessary that we sacrifice our desires and that we sacrifice our sufferings in order to continue advancing in our levels of consciousness. We were explaining just yesterday how not to fall into entropy and how to get out of entropy. And when we are feeling ourselves that we are like stuck, that we are stagnated, that we cannot advance in a situation in our lives, during a crisis, when we are trying to do this work for self-realize our being, there are many times in which we find ourselves like stuck, and these are the steps to get out from it. First of all, as always, self-observe, so we can discover what are those psychological defects that are there making us stuck. We are going to find certain desires, certain concepts, and when we start comprehending them and we make this conscious elimination, and when we eliminate them, we refuse those desires, so we decide to never feed that self anymore. And we also refuse sufferings, because you are going to see that when you go against the psychological defect, the defect is going to suffer in you. When you go against your own, for example, laziness, you're going to find a resistance. There is the suffering, there is the entropy. When you want to go against your anger, for example, and you are shutting down and you are self-observing everything that is moving in you and you are eliminating it, that defect of anger in you is going to suffer. It's going to suffer because, yes, you want to say, you want to yell, you want to hit, but now you are rescuing consciousness, and you need to also sacrifice your sufferings. And that way, we are going, by refusing desire, by refusing suffering, we are going to achieve the transformation. And only through transformation, it is possible to overcome the law of entropy. It is possible to continue advancing in our levels of consciousness, in raising our levels of consciousness, since transformation always includes the sacrifices. And we were talking, and this is like the basis for the practice that we are going to see today, that we people are or willingly sacrifice our pleasures, yeah, and even our vices, or even our money, in order to achieve that happiness, that freedom, that spirituality, and well, the self-realization of our being. But it's different with our sufferings and pains. We tend to be so attached to our sufferings that you can see that when we are passing through a hard situation, when we are feeling sad, or when we are feeling angry, or when we are having any negative emotional state, we sink in them. We stay there. We are instead of making something to go out from there, consciously, observing the defect manifesting, making the reflective meditations that we need to make, and getting out of there. What we do is that we start searching in our minds for reasons to continue to be suffering. And when we are feeling guilty, what we do is that we sink there in that, in feeling guilty, and we continue looking for more reasons to feel bad about ourselves, or to be sorry about ourselves. You can see that when we are sad, what we commonly do is that we play sad songs and sad music to continue, like, to feed our suffering. Or you can see that we are feeling like sad or depressed, and what we do is that we put sad movies and stuff, or start remembering things that make us sad. Or when you are angry, instead of working immediately on eliminating that psychological defect that is making you stay there in that state of in that wrong emotional state, what we do is that we start remembering the things that that person made to us, maybe there in the 2010, who knows, to continue feeding that that anger. And that way we can see that yes, we are very attached to our sufferings and our pains. We have very hard situations. We can even have we think that we had a hard life because we don't know how to see the opportunities in every situation that we have in our lives. And because we are all the time comparing with everyone else and seeing the lives of others, like the easy life, the good life, the one that has the opportunity, but that's not me. And there we continue like suffering, and we are so attached to our sufferings. And we need to know that these sufferings, this constantly be thinking about our sufferings, is something that lower our vibratory levels. That we are trying to make a work to get to know ourselves, to get to rise our levels of consciousness, but with this tendency to continue suffering every day, to continue remember the bad things that happened, to continue feeling sorry about ourselves, about our lives, to continue feeling resentments, and so on, we get stuck. And well, we need to learn to get out from there. Okay, so today we are going to be doing this practice about sacrificing our sufferings. And well, another thing that we tend to do in case that we don't stay there in that wrong emotional state, we are going to be willing to go out fast, but to go out to feed a desire, to feed a vice, to get some egoic pleasure that makes me get out of pain. And that is like going out through a false door, because what you are not resolving the thing, you are not really solving the suffering, you are not solving the psychological defects that are causing you to be suffering. What you are doing is that you are enslaving yourself to that vice, to that defect, to that pleasure that you are searching for to get out from pain. For example, if you are suffering and you do drugs or you start drinking to drown your pain there, you are not really solving the things. You are actually just enslaving yourself to the alcohol, to the drug, and the pain is going to be there. You're going like to be repressing that because now you're feeling a certain kind of pleasure, but you already know that the result of pleasure is always pain. So you are not really solving anything. You are just entering into a vicious circle. And if we are trying to awaken our consciousness, we need, and this is very important, we need to learn to sacrifice our sufferings, to sacrifice the psychological defects that are making us suffer. And well, for this, I am bringing you this guided practice. I hope that it is somehow helpful for you. And well, let's do the practice. You know that to start any practice, and well, I remind you that if you have any question at any point, you can leave your questions there in the chat, okay? And well, to start the practice, let's clean our environment. Let's sing the belly link song. And let's close the space with the magic circle conjuration. Okay, so I'm going to put this here. And if you don't know the lyrics of the belly link, you can read it there and sing it with me. Okay, so let's concentrate in our hearts and let's sing. Belly link, belly link, belly link. And for our salvation, I would like to be close to you. Materialism has no power over me. Belly link, belly link, belly link, belly link, belly link, belly link. And for our salvation, I would like to be close to you. Materialism has no power over me. Belly link, belly link, belly link. Belly link, belly link, belly link. And for our salvation, I would like to be close to you. Materialism has no power over me. Belly link, belly link, belly link. Well, with this song, we just clean our space, our environment from any negative energy that can be there. Okay, so now let's close the space with the magic circle of protection conjuration. And well, let's concentrate in our hearts and let's ask our inner Father. Father of mine, Lord of mine, God of mine, I beg you, if it is your will, to command my elemental intercessor to leave from my body and draw a magical circle of protection around this place in order to make it free from any evil forces. Now imagine how this your inner Father is commanding this elemental intercessor. Elemental intercessor, elemental intercessor, elemental intercessor. Do your work in the name of Christ, by the power of Christ, by the majesty of Christ. Now imagine how this little angel, which is your elemental intercessor, is drawing a circle, a green circle in a clockwise direction around you, while you mentalize the sound of the S 3 times, like this. And well, now that we have our place just cleansed and closed, let's ask for assistance to our inner Father and our Divine Mother to carry out that practice. So we have there the assistance of the highest parts of our consciousness. Father of mine, God of mine, Lord of mine, Divine Mother, I ask you to assist me in this practice so I can overcome entropy, so I can sacrifice my sufferings. Allow me to find all those psychological defects that are the ones that makes me stay in this suffering. Well, actually, you can make your request with your own words, however you feel comfortable talking to your inner father and mother. And well, now let's make a quick relaxation of our psychic body and of our physical body. So to relax our emotion, we are going to breathe smoothly and deeply, like 3 times. We're going to inhale slowly, and we are going to retain a little, and then we are going to exhale like quickly with the sounds. When we inhale, we are going to imagine how all that pressure that we have inside of us, all that emotional pressure, like is there. And when we are exhaling, we are going to imagine how that all that pressure, that emotional pressure, goes out with this when we exhale. Okay, so let's start. Let's inhale, retain, exhale. Once again, inhale, retain, exhale. One more time, inhale, retain, exhale. Well, now to relax our mind, we are going to focus on listening to distant noises for 1 minute. We are going to close our eyes, and we are going to try to listen every sound one by one that is around you, but without identifying in any of them, without thinking about any of them. If you listen something, for example, the dogs that are barking them, we are going to listen, but we are not going to let the mind start talking about that. We are going to listen and let go, and we are going to search for another sound, and search for another sound, and search for another sound. With that exercise, your mind is going to stop thinking, and you are going to experience the relaxation of your mind. So let's do this for 1 minute. Let's close our eyes and listen to all the sounds that are around us. Let's try to search for further sounds. And now let's try to hear the sounds that are closer to us. Closer and closer. Until we start hearing the very beat of our hearts. This exercise actually helps us to remind ourselves to bring the attention to the here and now, and our consciousness start manifesting in us. And well, now let's make a quick relaxation of our physical body, and we are going to do so by using our imagination. We are going to close our eyes, and we are going to imagine every part of our body, and we are going to imagine a bright light that enters and relaxes that part of our body, and we are going to mentally order that part of our body to relax. So we are going to feel our right foot. We're going to imagine how bright light enters our foot, relaxing it, relaxing every muscle, relaxing every vein, every finger, the flesh, the bones, every part of our body, of our legs, of our feet, of our foot, sorry. And we are going to order it to relax. Then we imagine how that bright light comes and fills our entire leg, relaxing every part of it. And you're going to mentally order it to relax. Now the same with your left foot. Imagine that bright light relaxing your whole foot. And order it to relax. Now let's feel with the light our left leg. And let's order it to relax. Now let's feel our right hand. Let's feel our hand with this bright light and our whole right arm. And let's order it to relax. The same with our left arm. Let's fill it with this bright light and let's order it to relax. Now let's feel all of our genital area, our buttocks, our stomach, every organ of our digestive system. Let's feel our chest with this bright light. Let's feel our back, our lower back, our whole spine, our upper back, and let's order our trunk to relax. Let's relax now our shoulders, our neck, filling it with this bright light, ordering mentally to our neck and our shoulders to relax. And now let's relax our head. Let's feel our whole head with this bright light, our face, our mouth, our nose, our eyes, our forehead, our scalp. And let's order our head to relax. Now let's say mentally, I order your physical body to relax. If right now you're feeling any tension in any part of your body, focus on that point and ask your Divine Mother to eliminate that tension. If you're feeling any defect, any anxiety, any pressure, any worry, whatever, eliminate it from you and relax. Let's focus ourselves right now in this moment, in the here and now, in the practice that we are about to do. And well, now let's go on. Now that we are well relaxed, let's start with this practice. And well, it is good that for this practice you find somewhere to take notes, maybe a notebook and a pencil. And well, we are going to try to search for any many defects and their details, and it is good if you have the opportunity of taking notes. That way you can like go ahead and don't forget about the defects that you are discovering. And well, I'm going to give you like 1 minute, yeah, so you find somewhere, if you have handed somewhere to take notes, okay? And well, this is like the first question. We are going to see 5 questions that we are going to make ourselves, conscious questions, so we can get out of the sufferings that we are dealing with right now. So let me just prepare myself here. And well, this is the first question that we are going to solve right now. And this question is, what is making me suffer right now? And we are going to make a list of the 3 main aspects that are causing us suffering right now. And for this, we are going to take 3 minutes. We are going to concentrate and we are going to find what are these 3 main aspects that are causing us suffering right now. Remember that are things that cause you suffer that are external to you and things that are internal to you. Try to search for external things and internal things, okay? So let's make this first question 3 minutes. Try to find these 3 main aspects. Here I have 3 examples. For example, you can find that you are suffering because of loneliness, or that you are suffering because someone betrayed you, so for a treason, or you can be suffering, and you can be suffering for any economic problems. So those are examples, but you can actually look for your own or your reasons to be suffering right now. Okay, so let's start. 3 minutes. Okay, now let's move on to the next question, where I hope that you have found these three main aspects. And well, the second question that we are going to ask us is, who is behind this suffering? So in front of each of those aspects that you found, you're going to determine what is the psychological defect that is suffering. You need to understand that consciousness never suffers. Consciousness understands every time. And if you are suffering, it's actually a ego, it's a psychological defect that is suffering. For example, if my reason for suffering is loneliness, I can easily find that the defect that is suffering behind is lust, is the need to satisfy my emotional lust or my sexual lust, and fornicate with someone. So I can easily find that defect there behind. Or if I am suffering because someone betrayed me, I can easily find that the defect behind is my defect of pride that is suffering there. Or if I am suffering because I have economic problems, I could find that is my greed. But I could also find that I can be suffering for this because of what others would say, or because of what others will say if they think that that I am, I don't know, a failure or whatever. And well, that is a defect behind that suffering. So in front of those aspects as you found, let's take this next 5 minutes to find what is the defect behind. Okay, so let's concentrate and ask our consciousness, and let's search for what is the defect behind. Okay, so let's start with 5 minutes. You can actually find that um, most of the times are many, or yeah, few psychological defects behind one suffering, not only one. And it's okay. It's better. The greater the amount of details that you can find, well, the greatest the amount of consciousness that you are going to rescue. Great. And now let's move to our third question. And well, now we are going to see, now that we found who is the one that is suffering, we are going to ask ourselves, why does this character or this defect, the psychological I, suffers? Why? So in front of each of those details that you found, you are going to determine what are the reasons or the justifications for sufferings. And this will allow you to find more details of oneself. For example, if you find that is lost, the one that is causing you suffering because you're feeling lonely, then you're going to see or to find what are the justifications for suffering. Okay, I'm suffering because I want to fornicate. I'm suffering because of my emotional loss. That needs to have a couple to hug, to love me back, and etc. And that is a psychological defect that we need to work on ourselves, because if we don't know how to be like great with ourselves alone, we are not going to be able to have a conscious relationship, because we are going to be all the time dependent on the other person. So we are going to be attached to that person, and attachments ends up in suffering. Or you can find that is you need to show off yourself, so that to show others that you have, a partner, that you have a family, that you are a correct person. Or if you or the defect, for example, here that you find is pride, is the one that is making you suffer because of some treason. Then you can find that the justifications that are sustaining this pride are or lies in your self-sympathy or in your self-consideration, and that are making you feel frustrated. Or if you are suffering from economic problems and you find that details of that you're suffering because of what others would say, you can find as a justification the concepts that you have that says that you need to be someone important in life, that you need to be successful, and all those concepts of the personality that are around this image that we have of ourselves. We can find as a justification to suffer about that the fear of humiliation, the fear for the criticism, because that is there in what others will say. So let's take 5 minutes to find why these defects that we found are suffering. What are the reasons or the justifications for suffering? Okay, I'm gonna set 5 minutes. Well, now let's move to our fourth question. I hope that you, with these questions, have the opportunity to delve into your own situation, into your own suffering. And well, the fourth question is, and this one is going to help us to understand the urgency to eradicate that suffering from you, that defect that is causing you suffer, and it is what damages has caused this suffering. Once we make ourselves aware of how we are damaging ourselves by feeding these defects, we have like that will to go against it. And well, now with this, we are going to determine what has made me do this suffering, in which vices have I fought for these sufferings, how have I hurt myself, my body, how have I hurt others, and how I am hurting my own consciousness, my own inner being because of these defects. And well, for example, if you are working on the suffering because of loneliness, and you find that you're lost, and all the reasons for this suffering, then you can find that because of this, you end up in constant masturbation. So you are falling in that vice of masturbation, thus wasting your sexual energy, thus degenerating yourself, and well, damaging your your own body. So you can find this. Or if we are talking about a treason and the pride, and there you find all the justifications for this pride to suffer, then you can, for example, find that because of this, you were feeling resentment with that. You're hurting your body, your emotional center, and you fall in betrayal. You fall into harming others. Into, okay, you betray me, now I'm going to betray you back, for example, and the revenge there. Or you have fall in degeneration, for example, in promiscuity, because okay, I was betrayed and now I'm going to be with anyone, whatever, and you degenerate. So you're going to find that. Or because of economic problems and you are suffering because of what others will say, and you have the justifications of your image or not being criticized or be humiliated, then you can, for example, fall because of that suffering into missing the commitments that you have with your unconsciousness. And for example, you have like an itinerary for your practices of consciousness, of doing sacrifice for humanity, certain times a day for the reflective meditation and other practices, etc. And you trying to search for a job, or you find that job of 12 hours job, for example, and you miss your commitments with your inner being, and you are damaging your own inner work and betraying your consciousness. So those are just examples. The things is that with your own sufferings and the own things that you are finding, you can see how this suffering makes you damage yourself, others, and your physical body. Okay, so let's take 5 minutes for this. Well, now that you know what are the consequences of this, what have been the consequences of this, and what are the damages that this is causing you um, and others, the next step would be the elimination. The next step would be to eradicate from you all these defects that you have found today. But what happens that you are going to find that when you are there trying to sacrifice it, you are going to find that resistance. You are going to find that you have an attachment. So for this, so we can eliminate these defects, we are going now to see what has me attached to this suffering. We are going to see if we are attached because of the pleasure that we are receiving, or because of fear, can also be another consequence. And what we are going to do is that for each one, we are going to be asking ourselves, would I be willing to sacrifice it? If no, if yes, let's eliminate it. Let's ask our Divine Mother to eliminate it, and let's commit ourselves to never feed that self anymore. And if no, then let's ask ourselves, what prevents me from making the decision to sacrifice it? And when we find what is it, then we work on it and we eliminate it. We eliminate the defects. For example, if this that I found, this device of masturbation, I need to ask myself, would I be willing to sacrifice the self of masturbation or fornication to get out of this suffering? That is the question, and there you're going to find like the key. The point is that you find the strength to say yes, I'm going to break with it. And when you do so, you ask for death for that defect. Or if it is resentment, betrayal, generation, you ask yourself, would I be willing to sacrifice my pride, my desire to betray, to degenerate, so I get out of this suffering? There you find the strength, you say yes, and you eliminate it. And if this you are having these problems with what others will say for your economic problems, and the think of your image, and your fears, etc., then you need to ask yourself if you are really willing to sacrifice that image, or those fears, to get out of that suffering. So you free yourself from those sufferings, so you can start living it, happily in the here and now, experiencing the peace, because your sufferings are not more than concepts that you have. Once you free yourself from all those psychological defects that keep you there, like locked on those concepts, you just free yourself from it. So let's take 5 minutes to make this process of freedom. Let's find what is that is attaching us to that suffering, to that defect, that is making us suffer, and let's break with it, and let's ask for that. Okay, so these are going to be the last 5 minutes of this practice. Okay. And this was the last question that we have for this practice. I hope that you could find there any important defects. Well, in my case, I found many that I am going to continue studying, um, continue delving in them. And well, if the same happened to you, if you found there's something that you know that is important to continue delving in, well, go ahead and continue. Take your time to continue delving into that defect, finding the desires, the justifications, the acts of ill will, seeing how this leads you to suffer, and detaching yourself from that defect and eliminating it. And well, this has been today's practice. And well, remember that there can be no transformation without sacrifice. So the important thing is that we learn to sacrifice our desires, sacrifice our psychological defects in order to get out from suffering and continue, in order to continue advancing in the search of our inner being, in the search of getting to know ourselves. And well, thank you very much to all of you who watched the practice. If you have, as I always say, any question at any point, remember that I'm here available to help you with any concern that you have. And well, we'll be seeing tomorrow the Phase B lecture. We are going to be studying Theosophy, Spiritism, and Medium. And well, we are going to be seeing ourselves in the Phase A lectures. And next week, we are not having guided practice and Phase B lectures because of the Christmas holidays. But the week after that, we are going to have a interesting study about the real meaning of Christmas. So, well, this is all for today. Thank you very much to all of you, and see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.